I just completed a bucket list adventure, scuba diving in a huge aquarium full of sharks. What's up guys, welcome back to another episode from the other side of the world, Dubai. Well, not right now, I'm in my workshop here in Lake Havasu City, Arizona, but when I was there, I stayed at the Palm Atlantis, which is one of the original luxury hotels built during the city's massive expansion in the early 2000s, where it seemed like everybody was trying to one-up everyone else by building the tallest thing, or the biggest thing, or the most weirdly shaped thing. Well, the Palm Atlantis really took its inspiration from the underwater Lost City very seriously. And not only do they have a huge water park, which I did go to twice. Whoa! Oh my goodness, that went up my bum. But they have an enormous fish tank full of sharks, and I was able to scuba dive in it. Oh, yeah, that's the thing that happens here. Pretty solid day to go scuba diving, but we aren't scuba diving out there. We're scuba diving in there. So you may have seen last week's episode where I was riding Can-Ams in the desert. I'm here in Dubai, and out here they do things bigger and better than basically anywhere else in the world, including building aquariums. And this one behind me, you can actually scuba dive in. So we're going in there. And yes, that is a shark. So is that, so is that, and so is that over there. So behind this glass is 2.9 million gallons of salt water, and it's home to all of these guys. So this is the big shark that I've seen going around right there. That one is the biggest in the aquarium. Yeah, I'll be in there with you soon, mate, don't worry. So like I said, there are 2.9 million gallons of water in the Lost Chambers Aquarium, which is just over 12,000 tons of water, or 6,000 elephants if that's easier to imagine. And one of the things that I've found really interesting about the aquarium is that it has a dedicated rescue and rehabilitation program for injured and stranded marine animals, including sea turtles. Once they've rehabilitated them, they get released back into the wild, and they also participate in captive breeding, which are for endangered or vulnerable species. So by breeding them in captivity, they can help ensure the survival of animals that face threats in the wild due to habitat destruction, overfishing, or pollution. They also have a coral propagation project, which is aimed at growing and transplanting corals to help restore the dying or damaged coral reefs in the region. And if you know anything about our coral reefs around the world, they need all the help they can get right now. So while I would love to see every animal living its best life in the wild, unfortunately there are a lot of reasons why that's just not possible. But it is great to see places like the Lost Chambers Aquarium doing their part to conserve and to protect marine life in lots of different ways. So after checking in and making my way through the service corridors in the hotel, I came out into the scorching heat and got my first glimpse of the aquarium from the top. The fact that this is an open top aquarium that's exposed to sunlight and atmospheric conditions actually makes it a much healthier environment for all the fish, as it more closely replicates the ocean versus those indoor tanks you see in a lot of places. We had our safety briefing, and then it was time to get suited up and ready to come face to face with those big ass sharks that I've been watching all week, but this time on their side of the glass. Now, the last time I went diving was in a thermal hot spring in the middle of the desert, and let's just say visibility wasn't great. When you've got great visibility on a scuba dive, people often say it's like diving in a fish tank. Well, I was literally diving in a fish tank, and it's the best visibility that I've ever experienced underwater. It honestly was quite overwhelming because it didn't matter where you looked, there were fish everywhere. 65,000 of them, in fact. As I started my descent, I had rays coming up to say hi, which is to be expected because they're one of the most inquisitive marine animals. They're just like big sea puppies. I also spotted a pretty big eel making its way between hidey holes, and to be honest, ever since I saw the video of a scuba diver getting his thumb bitten off by an eel, I tend to keep the ticklers away from them. Now, I had taken my trusty Garmin watch with me on this trip, but I decided that I needed to christen the deep sea with its first scuba dive, and even though it was only 33 feet deep rather than the 36,000 feet that it's rated for, it did feel good to use a Rolex for the purpose in which it was intended. So if you're the type that's even scared to wash your hands wearing a Submariner, you'll be fine. just make sure that crown is screwed in. At one point we had a photo op sitting on this big throne that they had down there holding a trident, which was pretty cool. I was gonna get some of the photos they took, but when I found out they wanted 300 bucks for the digitals, I decided my GoPro was just fine. And this was also the spot where you could go up to the big viewing window that I'd stood at earlier in the morning, and one of the guys down there actually got a really cool photo with his wife through the 27 inches of glass that hold back all of that water and the sharks. And talking of which, it wasn't long after that I kept getting this weird feeling like I was being followed. And every time I turned around, it was usually a ray or a cute little nurse shark just floating by. But then it happened. As I turned around, that same 9-foot long oceanic blacktip that I'd seen earlier on decided to come in for a closer look. And as it approached me from the rear, it literally came within 3 feet of my head and then just effortlessly glided on by. I've been on dives with sharks in the past, but this was the first time that I've had one bigger than me come so close, and it really does hit home just how perfect they are for their environment and what little chance you'd stand if they really wanted to show off their abilities, shall we say. But rather than feeling scared, it was actually just a magical moment to be that close in such a beautiful place with such an amazing creature. And sharks get a bad reputation because of the media and the movies, but fun fact, you are 30 times more likely to get struck by lightning than attacked by a shark. So after my encounter with Bruce, I went and checked out some of the other features in the aquarium, like the huge bubbler they have in the middle that keeps the tank aerated, and there's these cute little fish that clean the algae growth off the rocks. And then underneath I spotted a white-tip reef shark just taking a little nap. I also had an encounter with an inquisitive little pufferfish who came to say hello, and I remember when I learned to dive in the Red Sea in Egypt, those guys were everywhere, and I was a little bit scared of them because of their toxicity and their ability to puff up into little spiky balls. But it's actually a defense mechanism, and they'll only do that if they feel threatened as a way to stop themselves from getting eaten. And their toxin, which is called tetrodotoxin, is mainly found in their liver, in their ovaries, and on the skin, but it's only toxic to humans if you ingest it, or it gets into like an open wound. So as long as they're deflated and you don't mess with them, they're just these cute little guys with googly eyes that like to come and say hello. As we got towards the end of our 30-minute dive time, I just took a second to hang out by a ladder at the edge in around 15 feet of water, so I could just take everything in around me. Because if you've ever been scuba diving or even snorkeling before, you'll know that wearing a mask kind of gives you tunnel vision, and unless it's right in front of you, you don't really see what's going on. So being at the edge and then just looking back into the tank really let me take in the epicness of what I've just done. It's not every day you get to swim in a fish tank, let alone scuba dive in one full of sharks. That experience compounded just how much I love to travel and how important it is to broaden your horizons as a human being. Discovering different cultures, trying new foods, seeing how other people live is just so good for the soul. And I honestly think if more people did it, the world would be a much more harmonious place. Now, you don't need to scuba dive with sharks if you don't want to, but if you've been wanting to take a trip or try that thing, do it. And do it as soon as you possibly can, because life's short and you might get struck by lightning. well, there's more chance of that happening than you getting attacked by a shark. So if you ever do find yourself in Dubai and you want to get into the aquarium, there's a few ways you can do it, including these funny helmets that you put on if you aren't scuba certified. And I think you can also snorkel as well. I'll put links below to their website for you to check out everything. And if you do find yourself out there and you are a certified diver, I highly recommend taking a couple of hours out of your day to experience it. It will honestly be one of the most fun dives you'll ever do. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. If you aren't subscribed, please consider subscribing because I would very much appreciate the show of support. Be good people, make good choices, but most importantly, remember, until next time, don't do anything I wouldn't do. See ya.